All right. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Episode 12, Emerald Archer. So this episode is very high quality. It's amazing. Like, it blows you away from the start. It comes all on like a movie, that old Warner Brothers introduction, and it feels very cinematic as we go back and forth a couple of times through the episode. Not too much, but just like one or two, maybe three times tops. We go back and forth between interviews of people discussing the consequences and the lives of vigilantes, what it means to be a vigilante, and the toll it takes. We get all kind of interesting character returns, such as Ragman, Detective Lance. I think we see Huntress in the footage. We see her mask later. When we get to the actual story, we see Barry Allen actually make an appearance on here, just credited as Star Labs CSI or something like that. And he's talking. It's funny when he talks about Oliver, how Oliver's messed up and stuff, and just the way he. I was like, oh, I didn't mean like I like worried that he offended Oliver, or maybe the audience or something, and he pretends he didn't know that Oliver was the vigilante Green Arrow until he was arrested. There's a few funny things like that in here. We get to see Thea back too. She talks about the life, and we see all kinds of interesting clips from previous seasons. It's all about vigilantes, and it's really incredible. They discuss, you know, the new Green Arrow and all that. And it's narrated by Kelsey Grammer, which is awesome. He's a great narrator. Anyways, uh, so early into them being recorded and all that, we see what's his name down, Mad Dog. We see him down Renee, and they say we got an officer down, or well, of course we know he's not an officer, and they know that too. Well, this is kind of contradictory because in the documentary or whatever, it says the names of the people, and then it says the vigilante name below their name. That, like, for instance, Renee, below his name it says Mad Dog. Okay, you know he's not an officer, but they mention in the future at the end of this episode that this documentary was banned and never got out. So beyond the documentary style stuff, which is really spectacular and really great, the rest of the episode is just as spectacular and great. It's another episode where Felicity doesn't annoy me. Uh, but essentially, what happens is, you know, Oliver is he's getting heat for being the hero. The mayor wants, him to come forward and speak and have all this other stuff. But before it gets to that, him and Diana and the rest of the gang are trying to solve. Basically, somebody snatching vigilantes. Somebody snatched his sister Miko, uh, and they find the lair of this person, and they also see the mask of the Huntress, the mask of Ragdoll, the mask of Wild Dog. I called him Mad Dog, didn't I? The mask of Wild Dog. Anyways, anyways, this person has all kinds of photos and stuff. It's like just an obsession for whoever this is. They're calling him the Chimera. He Oliver goes to Diggle, and he reveals to everybody in this episode. He doesn't keep secrets. He reveals to everybody in this episode that Amiko Queen, the new archer, only his close personal circle, of course, reveals to everybody that she's his sister, and he gets Curtis and Diggle to help him out, and it's funny the way Curtis acts when he gets on camera of the doctor, because the people are following everywhere, even when it's back to like normal format of the episode. The camera crews are following Oliver everywhere, so it flips back and forth between that, the documentary style, and then the regular episode style, and it gets some great shaky camera action when they go to hunt down this chimera that Curtis comes up with the info for. He brings it to him, and he's like, I use the black satellites to. I think that's what he said. They use the black satellites to track this person down and find him. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't say that. That there are because there are no black satellites." And he comes up with the name for Chimera, and he says in front of the cameras that what he's no Cisco. Bet that's before he even knows who the cameras are. Anyways, we see a lot more documentary style footage is pretty great. Just one on one like interviews with all the different characters. We even see Sin finally return. We also see what's her name, White Canary. We see her in a little interview too. That was pretty cool. We saw pretty much all the characters that are relevant to the series. Anyways, they go to hunt down the Chimera, and he's pretty heavily armed, and he kicks Oliver's ass, and Diggle has to come in and save him at the last minute. They get Amiko back. Amiko escapes from the hospital because she's a vigilante, of course, and what do you expect? So she runs off, teams up with Renee. Well, her and Renee have a talk. She reveals to Renee that she's actually Oliver's sister when she's injured. Uh, on the other side of things, Diana and uh, Diggle and Curtis tell Oliver to go ahead and, you know, do that thing the mayor wants him to do, despite the fact it might put lives in danger or whatever. Everybody else suits up. They want to back Oliver completely. So they do. Curtis, Curtis, Wild Dog, you got Spartan, you got all of them suiting back up. And so Chimera crashes this event where Oliver's speaking, where the mayor's blaming him for being solely responsible for all this crazy vigilante stuff that's happened over the past 7 years. And then Chimera shows up, and they mentioned that his suit is Wayne Tech, which is they seem to be driving a lot more Wayne and Gotham stuff as we're getting closer to Batwoman getting her own series. I don't know if it'll ever lead to Batman or anything like that, but that would be pretty interesting. But it's interesting enough as it is. So this guy Chimera is a pretty big threat because he kicks Oliver's ass and he pretty bad. All the whole team Green Arrow has to jump this guy, and he's still coming up on top while Felicity's trying to find a weak spot in his armor. Uh, Diana actually steps up. She saves the mayor's life in front of the mayor. I was aware this was going to have some real hardcore consequences. She uses her scream to save the mayor. And then she actually helps them take down Chimera, and the mayor has to arrest all of them, and they're all told that they're going to go to prison. But then Diana and Oliver both go to say that they're going to go down with their team, which results in the mayor saying, "You know what? This is a one-time deal. You guys go ahead and go." Pretty much, he tells them to go ahead and go. That the vigilante law is staying intact, and that they better not suit up again. So she gives them a free pass, but she also makes the hands out badges. She wants all of them to be like Oliver on the police force. So this is getting into some very interesting, crazy territories. Unfortunately, when it comes to the real identity of the bad guy and the story behind him, what his driving motivations are, apparently he's just obsessed with superheroes because Oliver saved him, or he's obsessed with vigilantes because Oliver saved him a few years ago, and since then he just likes collecting their masks. But he's insane. He's from a psychiatric facility, so of course this is why he goes to those methods. It's not really that great of a motivation or anything. It's like an afterthought. But it was still a pretty badass villain. A very awesome episode all around production quality. This episode was very impressive to me. So the episode actually ends with, Oliver and them going to where with the camera crew following him, going to where their base used to be that Diaz destroyed, and he's talking about rebuilding better. He made a lot of mistakes. He's going to rebuild this better. And then it flashed forwards to the future with Black Star and Connor Diggle's son that we've seen before on Legends of Tomorrow. That was a different future though, where he wasn't. He was Arrow, but in this one, he knows Black Star. They know each other, and she's watching that footage. She mentions that that footage was banned, but it's actually interesting pro vigilante propaganda that she can use to some extent or whatever. And then they go and find that base that was in the footage, and I don't know what they plan to do with it. But she's like, they did this to themselves. So this character is interesting. I can't wait to see how this all turns out. Um, I'm curious to know which people died in the future. Was it Diggle or was it Curtis? Was it both? Uh, Other than that, the only other thing really going on is William returns from home and he's pretty pissy. Felicity has, locks on the Wi Fi, like, has hacks. Well, she hacks into a system unintentionally because new tablet, laptop, whatever that connects to the Wi-Fi automatically gets hacked into by her system, her security program, or whatever. But William's pretty pissy. He goes over to Wild Dogs, Renee's, and he visits Renee's daughter. And Renee makes a funny comment about he'll be in the next room with his gun. That was pretty hilarious. But as we all know, William turns out to be gay in the future, and it seems like he's trying to say something to Renee's daughter here about it. But that doesn't come through. All around, though, this episode was pretty amazing, man. I'm impressed. Arrow has been impressing me this season, just a little bit. Let's not go overboard. I don't want to jinx it either and have this whole thing get derailed with olicity behavior, the toxic relationship type junk that occurs routinely on this show. But for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with what's going on lately. Anyways, I'd give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. It's very, very enjoyable. Very, a very great piece for Arrow. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment. Tell me what your favorite parts of the episode were. Tell me what your least favorite parts of the episode were. Stay awesome. Rock on.